Hey everyone, we're going to talk about trust. In a call recently, someone said, I don't know who I can trust anymore. And it's a good question from this conversation. And actually, what what a conversation about reality and self and behavior and programming and conditioning does is actually, for the first time, give us some 100% reliable um, foundations for life that we never had before, or where we never had when we're living out of our perceived idea of the world and of the self that we think we are. Because when life is lived from the perspective of a self identity trying to control um, how people behave towards us, what we experience, what emotions we have, what mental state we're in, what the future is going to look like. When we're trying to control all that, because that level of control looks necessary for our well being, our freedom, our peace, our happiness, then everything really looks like to be a question of trust. Can I trust myself um, to not break down, to not be exhausted, to not fail? Can I trust them to do what I want them to do? Can I trust that I won't have these experiences that I desperately don't want to have? So we're living really in this place of trust that everything is going to work out in the way the mind believes it should. And so we find ourselves in a position um, of that insecurity, of trying, of coming from that place of insecurity, fundamental insecurity, because these things need to happen or stay in the same way or change in order for me to be okay. And through that lens of insecurity, I'm trying to trust people. I'm trying to, well, basically, I need to know that they're going to do what I need them to do, because my whole well being, my whole sense of self depends on that. And so trust is, it's a fraught exercise, really, isn't it? But actually, there are things that we can trust that are fundamental and that don't change. And what we can trust is that my behavior, my response, my experience will 100% be the product of the belief system operating in that moment. And whatever makes most sense for that system there and then will be the behavior, will be the words, will be the reaction. And it's exactly the same for everyone else. We can 100% trust that other people's behavior will make total sense for them given what they're believing in that moment. It will make total sense. And there won't be any possibility of any other behavior happening. So that is completely reliable and has nothing to do with our well-being, has nothing to do with our happiness and our freedom, because that's already there. That's what we are already. And then into that space comes behavior, comes beliefs, comes thoughts. But actually, that's just a play out really of the mind, how it interprets, how it reacts and responds. And behind it, behind the interpretations and the meanings and the stories, there's this witnessing presence which is unfazed, untouched by all that. And that's another, and perhaps the core aspect that we can trust, is that what we are is life intelligence in form. And so that intelligence is always going to respond to whatever arises. Can't not. And the more clearly it's understood that what we are is life, consciousness, intelligence, presence, then these protective devices of the mind, these stories, these reactivities, these vulnerabilities and insecurities make less and less sense. And the trust really is that we are intelligence already. That's what we are. We don't have to, the mind will say, I have to find my wisdom, or I have to find the right mental space, or I have to manage my emotions. I have to find the right feeling. But actually, what we are is intelligence already. That's it. The mind doesn't really matter what it's doing. We are intelligence. And that's the fundamental trust element, really, is that is always operating. You know, if we think of the billions of reactions that intelligence is bringing about in the body, just to say one word, it's incredible. It's in full operation, and all that's going on is that there's a self-identity that misguidedly thinks it's in control of everything, thinks that it exists when it doesn't. So that's it. So as far as trust is concerned, those are what it might make sense just to trust what can be trusted, which is those things. And ironically, as there's less and less pressure on other people or on situations, circumstances to be in a particular way in order for us to be okay, because that's a false dynamic, it's a false equivalence. We can never be secured by someone doing what we want them to do. It's such a temporary fix that just keeps the whole circus in place. But the more reality, or the more the mind settles into reality, and there's not our well-being, our happiness, our freedom loaded onto the actions of other people, what we do find is people become so much more honest with us. They can tell us things that before they were sneaking about in secret because there was so much at stake. But now our happiness, our well-being, our freedom is a given. That's just what we are. That's what the intelligence of life is. And then we can ask. We can ask. It's so simple, but it's so enormous. We can ask, and people can tell us, and there we go. It's so much better than putting our entire being on the shoulders of someone else and saying, I trust you to always do the thing that I have in my head that I might not even necessarily have communicated to you to do. Yeah, let's keep it simple. So much easier. Thank you. Bye.